What's going on, people? Good Thursday morning. Hope you guys are doing well. We're going to take a look at some more draft stuff today. I think it's about time we dive a little bit deeper. Again, we are starting to really get an idea of what kind of draft picks we're going to have in this upcoming draft. So now that we have kind of honed in on the selection, we can kind of hone in on appropriate players. Real quick, I just want to remind everybody that I will be streaming tonight. Should start about 6 o'clock. We're doing the Huskies Longhorns Alamo Bowl. So tune in. It's going to be the last Husky game of the season, last Husky game of the year. And hopefully we can end it the right way. Apparently, by the way, Bijan Robinson is not playing. So that's Texas's best player down. So that's kind of a big deal. And that should really be able to swing the game if it wasn't already swung. So, hope to see you guys there. Bow down to Washington. All right, let's dive into the draft here. And this video is going to be about our first second round pick. We've talked about the first and the second first. The Broncos first rounder and our first rounder. Now we're talking about the Broncos second rounder. Now that we're here at the end of the year, we have a pretty good idea of where that pick is going to be. It's going to be very, very high in the second round because Denver was terrible this year. We're probably picking 33 to 37, somewhere in that range. It could go up as high as 31. Maybe it goes to 32. But, well, I'm sorry. No, wait. Excuse me. 32 is the highest it can go. But I think we're going to end up in that 33 to 37 range. Most likely, the most likely outcome is 34, I believe. I think that's likely where we end up. But it's going to be in that range. So let's talk about players specifically for that area of the draft. Guys who I think are, as of right now, likely to go in that very early second round. And remember, this is the no quarterback path. This is assuming we've got Geno, we've got Drew Lock, and we're good. We're happy with that. We don't need a quarterback. We're not going to think about drafting a quarterback until like the 5th or 6th round. If that is what we're doing, what do we do? Because I've spent a ton of time this year talking about quarterbacks, so I don't need to do it more. You guys know who I like. You guys know who intrigues me. We may go down that path, but this is the non-quarterback path. If we get to this pick and Anthony Richardson is there, I would definitely consider that. If we get to this pick and I don't really know who else entices me in this area of the draft at quarterback, but there are definitely going to be options I'm intrigued in, but that's not what we're here to do. If we assume that we're perfectly happy at quarterback with Geno and Drew Lock, what can we do in this early second? Okay, let's dive in here and start taking a look at some guys. I got 6 guys here. It's not everybody who I would consider in this range. Remember, this is going to be kind of a quick and dirty look at guys who entice me right now. There are going to be more guys as the offseason goes on and I start really diving into these players. Some guys are also going to be eliminated because we do things in free agency that remove us from consideration for player X or player Y. So 33 to 37, let's start with Nolan Smith, the edge rusher from Georgia. He's 6'3", 235 pounds, 22 years old. Another one of these Georgia Bulldogs defenders that is clearly really, really good, really, really valuable, really, really talented, but they don't put up the big stats because they play for Georgia. And when you play for Georgia, the stats are just often not going to be there because there are so many great defenders on that team. 2021 was his best year. He had 53 tackles, 8 for loss, 4.5 sacks, a pick, 3 forced fumbles. He actually took a step back in 2022. He missed a few games. The talent is still there, but the production wasn't. He only had 18 tackles. He still has more games to play because Georgia's in the playoff, obviously. 7 tackles for loss, 3 sacks and 1 pass deflection. This disappointing 2022 campaign could drop him to the early second. As of right now, he's generally mocked as being a late first-round pick. His average mock draft position across the internet right now is 29th. So he's probably a late first, but the lack of production in 2022 might drop him just a little bit. But Nolan Smith, he's very physical, got a high motor. He's a great run defender. He's a locker room leader. He's got a lot of things that you like as an edge player. He just needs to develop more as a pass rusher. He's not great with his hands yet. There are some things that he's going to have to develop. Maybe he'll be like a first-year Boye Mafe, where Mafe's a quality player, good against the run, but maybe he won't be great as a pass rusher until year 2. He had moments as a pass rusher at Georgia, but as you can see, over the 2 years where he actually played significant snaps, we're talking 7.5 sacks, not a ton of plays in the backfield. Again, some of that is because he's playing for Georgia, but you are definitely talking about a guy here who did not make nearly as many plays in the backfield as some of the other guys we're going to be looking at even in this video. So that first year, you might be looking at a guy who is great locker room guy, tries really hard, gives you great stuff as a run defender, even as a coverage guy, a guy who can drop into coverage, but maybe not immediately a great pass rusher. Okay, moving on, the next guy who intrigues me is Jalin Hyatt, a Tennessee wide receiver. Now, this is a little bit of a smaller guy, and I know some people are going to be put off by that. They want us to get another big guy along with Metcalf. 6'0", 175 pounds, so he's very, very slender. He's only going to be 21 years old when he plays his first NFL game, though. Maybe he'll get a little bit bigger just because he's so young. Jalin Hyatt is a guy who nobody knew about before 2022, and then he blew up. I think in 2021 he had like 300 yards at most. 2022 he had 67 catches, almost 1,300 yards and 15 touchdowns. He was Hendon Hooker's #1 man. So this guy has gone from not getting drafted to probable second-round pick in 1 year. As of right now, the average position he has in these mocks is exactly pick 34. So he is the definition of an early second-round guy. He's a great athlete. He's got great acceleration. He's got great speed. He's probably going to run very fast at the combine. Great on vertical routes, deep down the field. He's good getting yards after the catch. He's not somebody who's going to break tackles, but he's going to make people miss. He's going to get good leverage because of his speed and acceleration. He's going to be able to make things happen after he gets the ball in his hands. His hands are really good. He's a really good ball tracker deep down the field, kind of Tyler Lockett-ish. I've seen some comps to Will Fuller. He did play in a spread offense in college, so he's going to have some stuff to learn, and he's probably just going to be a pure slot in the NFL. But I like Jalin Hyatt as a second-round guy. Definitely intriguing at our pick. Next guy, Siaki Ika, Baylor nose tackle. We didn't draft a nose tackle last year. There weren't that many. In this draft, there also aren't that many. It's Siaki Ika and not a whole lot else. So this is a big dude. 350 pounds, 6'4". He's going to be 22 when he suits up for his first NFL game. Last 2 years are his notable college years. 2021, he made 24 tackles, 6 for loss, 3.5 sacks, but he anchored one of the best teams and best defenses in the country at Baylor. I think they were 10th in points allowed. They were 12-win team. Really, really good Baylor Bears squad. Really good defense. 2022, not so much. His stats were not nearly as impressive. He didn't make nearly as many plays in the backfield. It has dropped him. He was a late first-round pick at one point. Now I think he's going to be an early second-rounder. And Baylor's defense also was nowhere near as good. And the team was nowhere near as good. So Siaki Ika, the strengths are obvious. He's very strong. He can take up a lot of space inside. He has shown some ability to penetrate and make plays in the backfield. But at the end of the day, you are probably looking at a pure run-stuffing, space-eating nose tackle. Do you want to spend a second-round pick on that? I'd be fine with it, but there is definitely a little bit of a trade-off there. Okay, next off, we have Gervon Dexter from Florida, defensive lineman, who really caught my eye when I watched the Florida-Kentucky game. I thought he was making a ton of plays. He was all over the place, very impressive. This is a bigger guy. I do wonder if he's going to be a great fit in a 3-4 defense. He's 6'6", 303 pounds. That might be a little too big to play defensive end, but it might be too small to play nose tackle. So I don't know if Gervon Dexter fits into a 3-4 defense. It really depends on what kind of 3-4 you're running. Very young. He's going to be 21 years old next year when he starts playing in the NFL. Last 2 years, he's been pretty productive. 50 tackles each year, total of 8.5 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks. Had a pick this most recent year. Very disruptive as a player. We're talking about a guy who's big and lengthy, hard for offensive linemen to deal with. He's a good athlete. He's got a good burst. He's got a variety of pass rush moves already, and he's got good closing speed. The questions with him are technique, effort, and he needs to just learn to play the position a little bit better. Right now, he plays very high because he's so tall. He loses the leverage battle. He needs to learn how to win that leverage battle. At 6'6", it's going to be tough, but there's definitely an intriguing talent here. He's somebody who jumped off the screen to me when I watched Florida play this year in particular, I think. Next guy is going to be Felix Anudike-Uzomah from Kansas State, edge player. This is another guy who is super raw. He's maybe also a little bit more of a 3-4 fit, but I'm not a 4-3 fit, but I'm not completely convinced of that. A little bigger than you would like, but not critically so. 6'3", 252 pounds. He's only going to be 21 next year when the NFL season starts. He's had 2 very productive years in a row. 2022 was not quite as productive. 2021, he had 14 and a half tackles in the backfield and 11 sacks, 6 forced fumbles. 2022, he took a little bit of a step back, still 8.5 sacks. Sorry if you can hear my dog, by the way. 11 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles. He did drop a little bit overall this season in terms of his draft stock, mostly because his production dipped a little bit. But I still look at Felix and I go, this is a guy who could develop very well. He's very good against the run, and he's explosive against the pass. He has a variety of high-level pass rush moves already. He really knows how to put offensive linemen in the blender. He just needs to learn better counters. He just needs to learn how to counter when his first move gets stopped. So, again, I look at Felix Anudike-Uzomah and I see another Boye Mafe. Great player, great potential. That first year might be tough. He's very raw. He's going to need some time to develop in the NFL. But if you give him that time, I think by year 2 he can be a really good player, and maybe by year 3 he's an elite player. Final guy I want to take a look at in this range here. This guy might be a little bit of a reach here. I'm not sure. I have a feeling his draft stock is going to go up a little bit as we move through the draft process for a couple different reasons. I just kind of feel like being an Alabama linebacker, Alabama's going to be playing their bowl game soon here. I think he might have a big game there and put himself back on the radar. I think he's going to test fairly well. Henry To'o, other than Trenton Simpson, probably my favorite linebacker in this draft. Little bit small, but we'll see what he weighs in at the combine. That's what I'm going to say about that. 6'2", 225 pounds, 22 years old. 2 years of big production at Alabama, including 2021 when he was a monster. 111 tackles on an elite defense, 7.5 for a loss, 4 sacks, forced fumble, pass deflection. 2022 took a little bit of a step back, but that's also because he's playing fewer games because Alabama didn't get to play in the SEC title game or the playoff. 90 tackles, 7 for loss, 2.5 sacks. He's been consistently in the early second round of mocks this year. So, hold on here. Typo. But, yeah, this guy is a very high IQ player in diagnosing how to play against the run. He's great in zone coverage, which we know we care about. Obviously, Jordan Brooks has proven he sucks in zone, and that's been a big problem. So if you're looking for a linebacker who knows how to play well in zone, Henry To'o is really good at that. Great athlete, makes plays all over the field, sideline to sideline kind of player. That's the way they like to put it these days. Really seems very Seahawky to me. He's just a little small, which means he gets swallowed up against downhill rushing attacks. He's somebody who will get pushed out of the play by an offensive lineman. You need to keep him clean. So I don't know if he's a great fit for a 3-4 defense. But he could also bulk up a little bit, maybe be a little bigger in the NFL. Maybe give up just a little bit of speed to add a little bit of weight. Maybe he'll be able to still be effective in a more close quarters defense. I do think he'll be better in the open field being able to make plays, but Henry To'o, definitely an intriguing prospect in the early, maybe even mid-second round. To me, he's kind of the tweener between the Broncos' second-round pick and our second-round pick. So those are the guys who stand out to me right now. Those are the 6 guys who I like in this area of the draft. It's mostly front 7 guys, but I did give you 1 receiver. I'm still not super interested in attacking other positions at this point in the draft. Maybe when we get to our second round pick, in the middle of the second round, the Seahawks pick, I'll have more of those guys. But for now, these are the guys who stand out to me in this area of the draft. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys like anybody who I didn't mention? Does anything else stand out to you? Do you not like any of these guys? Do you really like any of these guys? Let me know down below. I will see you guys later. Go Hawks. Yeah, see you guys later on stream and on Twitch.